Discover the touching moment when a CEO reveals an incredible surprise for his hardworking maid. The annual Community Entrepreneurship Fair was buzzing like a beehive, and nestled in shadows was Sarah, a 34-year-old single mother with tired eyes that sparkled with quiet hope. As the sizzling barbecue smoke wafted through the air, she eyed the colorful booths where laughter and excitement filled the atmosphere. A far cry from her daily grind, where hours slipped through her fingers sorting other people's lives. Sarah worked as a maid across several houses in the affluent neighborhood, and today, amidst the vibrant chaos around her, she felt more invisible than ever, a ghost among the living. Over at a nearby booth, a sharp-dressed man named Mike, the local tech CEO with the kind of charisma that could light up a room, stood basking in his success. He was the embodiment of the American dream, focused solely on climbing higher, trading his heart for numbers. But while he indulged in small talk with other well-to-do patrons, life happened in whispers around him, stories of struggle buried under muted smiles, like Sarah's. As the crowd swelled, the fair took on an unexpected twist. It was the moment Sarah had been secretly longing for, the chance to speak her truth. When a local journalist, armed with a camera and a keen eye for narrative, caught her off guard, asking about her dreams of starting a cleaning business for single parents, her heart leapt. She opened her mouth, her story spilling out raw and real, the long hours, the relentless juggling of bills, and the burning desire for a better life for her kids. Just as the words flowed, she felt eyes turn toward her. Whispers began to weave through the throngs, igniting intrigue about the woman hidden in plain sight. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With Mike overhearing bits of Sarah's heartfelt tale, the ground shifted beneath him. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own privilege biting at his conscience. The shiny veneer of success felt cold against the warmth of her struggles. Questions spiraled in his mind. How had he never seen the world's invisible caretakers? His heart raced as he approached her, a flicker of determination igniting in his gaze. Mike offered not just to fund her dream but promised to connect her with seasoned business owners who could mentor her. As the crowd gathered closer, intrigue thick in the air, Sarah stood frozen, raking through tumultuous emotions. Just as the moment reached its climax, and anticipation simmered like the summer heat, Mike turned to reveal his plan. She struggled against the tide of overwhelming gratitude and fear now swelling in her chest. A familiar lump lodged tightly, choking back her voice as tears threatened to spill. When cheers erupted, not just for Sarah but for the community coming together, she realized how their collective dreams echoed through her own. Yet, amidst the joy danced shadows of worry on the edges of her mind. Would this unexpected opportunity lift her up, or would the weight of expectation pull her down? As murmurs rippled through the gathered townsfolk, uncertainty hung heavy, leaving everyone, including Sarah, grasping for answers. Would the dreams born from hardship be supported with kindness, or would they unravel in the throes of new pressures? The applause began to fade, but Sarah remained in her bubble, a storm of disbelief swirling inside her. All eyes hung on her, but she barely felt present, stitched in place by the weight of her dreams colliding with her reality. She blinked, trying to absorb the faces around her, a mixture of hope and expectation. As Mike smiled at her, his confidence a stark contrast to the uncertainty now gripping her heart, she felt a twinge of fear. What if she failed them? In the back of her mind, an inner voice screamed doubts. What did she know about running a business? Every day was a struggle just to keep the lights on. The thought of jumping into something so grand was terrifying. As she clenched her fists, she felt the familiar warmth of ambition flickering beneath her fear. But what if ambition alone wouldn't be enough? Sarah. Mike's voice cut through her thoughts like a hot knife. This is your moment. Don't let it slip away. Those words hung in the air, urging her to step closer to the edge of her dreams or to shy away into the shadows she had inhabited for so long. Just then, she noticed a figure moving to the front. It was Anna, the woman who had worked alongside her for years, her back bent under the weight of heavy cleaning supplies but her spirit strong. Anna's eyes gleamed with pride, but even more, they held a question. Would Sarah really go for it? Before Sarah could answer that question herself, a loud crash erupted near the food stalls. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A vendor was struggling to hold up a giant inflatable structure that had just toppled over, scattering food everywhere. People rushed to help, but the commotion only deepened Sarah's sense of urgency. She faced Mike again, determination battling with doubt. What if I can't do this? What if I let everyone down? What if Sarah? He interrupted gently, yet fiercely. You're not just building a business. You're creating something enduring, a community of support. The fear won't drown you unless you let it. His words resonated deep within her. She had spent so long feeling unseen and unworthy. Perhaps this moment was not just a chance to change her life but to help others like her, all those silent fighters struggling against their own mountains. With newfound resolve coursing through her veins, she straightened her shoulders and took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of grilled meats mixed with the desperation of her dreams. She was ready to step into the light. But then, before she could utter a word, her phone buzzed sharply in her pocket. Surprised, she pulled it out, glancing down at the screen. A message flashed, one that instantly froze the heart in her chest. That it was from her landlord. You have until the end of the week to pay the overdue rent, or I'll have no choice but to start eviction proceedings. As panic surged through her, sweat beading at her brow, she couldn't help but wonder, could this moment of opportunity slip through her fingers just as quickly? With uncertainty gnawing at her gut and the crowd waiting, Sarah stood at a precipice, her dreams within reach but her reality looming large. How would she balance this unexpected chance with the urgency of her current crisis? In that charged moment, everything felt intertwined and fragile. The clamor around her faded, and she was left with one question echoing in her mind: what price would she have to pay to claim her dreams? The stakes were higher than ever, and with a single heartbeat, fate seemed to hang in the balance. The tension in the air thickened around Sarah as she stood frozen, her fingers tightening around the phone. The chatter of the crowd pulsated like a distant heartbeat, a stark contrast to the pounding in her chest. The message glared back at her, a heavy weight that threatened to crush her newly kindled resolve. What could she do in just a week? The cloud of eviction felt like a storm brewing on her horizon, ready to drown the glimmer of hope ignited by Mike's encouragement. Hey, Mike's voice broke through her fog, his expression shifting from excitement to concern. You okay? Sarah swallowed hard, nodding instinctively when all she wanted to do was scream. She couldn't let him see the fear clawing at her chest. Not now. Not when he believed in her so firmly. I just got a message, she managed, her voice a hoarse whisper. Mike frowned, stepping closer. The questions twisted in his eyes, but before he could pry, another crash drew their attention. More chaos erupted near the food stalls as people scrambled to control a second disaster. A fruit vendor's cart had flipped over too, oranges rolling wildly across the pavement. Laughter mingled with the shouts of vendors, a bizarre reminder of the lightness adoption could bring amidst her spiraling panic. Suddenly, a plan began to form in her mind, sparked by the frenzied atmosphere. I'll do it, she exclaimed, surprising even herself. I'll host a fundraising event. Something big. I can rally the community. Mike's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but delight danced across his face. Wow! That's brilliant. In her heart, adrenaline coursed through her like wildfire, feeding that flicker of ambition. Thoughts raced as Sarah envisioned the event, a gathering where everyone could chip in. Perhaps it could be a festival, a celebration of togetherness. The food market was alive with people she had known for years, who could stand with her as her supporters, rooting for her and her dream. What do you need? Mike encouraged, tugging her back into the moment. I need a plan. I'll talk to the vendors, see who will donate food, I'll put the word out. Her mind snapped into focus now, the fears starting to recede, drawn away by the tide of excitement, but as her enthusiasm soared, another dark thought crept in. Would that be enough? Yet before Sarah could weigh the implications, she felt a familiar presence beside her. Anna had moved closer, the younger woman's expression fierce and encouraging. I'll help you. We've got your back, Sarah. We all do. Her words ignited a spark in the crowd, starting a ripple of support that coursed through the onlookers. In that moment, buoyed by the support around her, everything else faded. She could feel the flutter of determination fluttering against the walls of uncertainty. It was a battle between fear and hope. But even as she luxuriated in that moment of connected strength, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a notification, a reminder about the mounting bills, the looming eviction. Panic shot through her once more, and Sarah could almost hear the clock ticking in her mind. Was this event truly her salvation? Could she really pull this off? With a heart heavy yet hopeful, she turned back to Mike. If I go through with this, what will it take? A glint of concern flickered across Mike's face. We'll have to make it remarkable, Sarah. Bigger than anything we've done before. We have to show everyone what this means to you. But what if I fail? Her voice trembled, fear creeping back. Then we'll figure it out together, he replied firmly, his words a balm to her mounting anxiety. But deep down, Sarah felt the lurking shadow of her landlord's message clawing back at her. The stakes were already so high, but now she had a way to fight back. The whisper of uncertainty remained, but her feet felt planted, and a plan was forming. As she looked out at the crowd, excitement began to replace fear, her mind racing with the possibilities. She had one chance. 1 week. The weight of her dreams still sank deep, but this time she had a lifeline. As cheers erupted from the crowd, a loud horn blared nearby, cutting through the freshness of the moment. It was followed by an unearthly scream that rose above the laughter. What was that? Sarah asked, heart pounding in her chest again, but no one answered. Instead, the crowd fell silent, eyes turning toward the source of the sound, and Sarah's heart plummeted as she wondered what this new storm could bring. Could this new chaos shatter everything she had just decided to build? The moment hung heavy in the air, the cheer dissolved into a chilling silence that wrapped around Sarah like a cold shroud. Confusion coursed through the crowd as people strained their necks and craned their heads towards the commotion, their expressions a mixture of shock and curiosity. What was that? Mike's voice was barely a whisper, and fear threaded through its tone, mirroring the turmoil in Sarah's heart. A rush of movement loomed at the edge of the market. Barely seconds after the scream, a flurry of bodies surged forward, pushing past the food stalls and flinging aside crates of goods as murmurs morphed into panicked shouts. Something's wrong. Anna yelled, tugging at Sarah's sleeve. Just a few feet away, 2 men were bickering loudly, the din of their voices swamped by the adrenaline coursing through Sarah's veins. She took a step closer, unable to resist the gravitational pull of the chaos. When she finally caught a glimpse, her stomach churned at the sight of a woman sprawled on the ground, a crowd forming around her, eyes wide and voices raised. Call 911. Someone call for help. The urgency in the air crackled like static. Shrinking back, Sarah felt the familiar weight of dread settle deep in her core. Was this some omen that her dreams were about to crash? Was it a sign? What if this chaos was somehow connected to the struggles she faced? Come on, we should help. Mike urged, already stepping forward. His bravery sparked an ember of courage within her. No. Wait. She grabbed his wrist, pulling him back. It could be dangerous. We don't know what happened. Doubt gnawed at her even as her heart raced, but instinct kicked in. The cohesive spirit of the community that had sought to ignite hope now demanded action. Around her, faces marred with worry looked for direction. Sarah glanced at Anna, who was crouched beside the fallen woman, her hands moving methodically, assessing the situation. "Stay!" Sarah called out, her voice rising against the background chaos. "We need to let the professionals handle this." As her words hung in the air, the crowd started murmuring again, shifting from support to concern. Fear pierced through, visible in their eyes. "Why aren't they doing anything?" A voice cried from the back. "I think she's hurt." Another echoed, panic seeping into the undercurrent of their words. Sarah's knees felt weak, and she drew a shaky breath, staring back toward the scene unfolding in front of her. This was meant to be her moment. Her festival. A gathering of unity. And yet here they were, frozen in uncertainty as danger loomed just a few feet away. "I can't let this happen, not when everything is on the line," Sarah breathed, steeling herself through the fear. "I have to do something." She turned to Mike, her resolve ignited. "Let us find a way to help. I can't just stand by." The glimmer of determination lit his eyes. "Okay. We'll organize things until help arrives." Just then, the sound of police sirens wove into the air, their wails echoing through the market, a symbol of hope and danger alike. The crowd began to panic anew, the chaos amplifying as they scrambled to make sense of the unfolding events. As paramedics rushed into the fray, Sarah felt a deep pang of fear mixed with urgency. Would her event even happen now? Would this crowd, once her potential supporters, become a mere backdrop to tragedy? Just then, amidst the flurry of activity, she locked eyes with the fallen woman. Something stirred in her heart. A flicker of recognition, a sense of shared humanity. Was this woman also fighting for something? Was there a connection? The sirens screamed louder, a reminder that the world outside was spinning on. And as Sarah stood at the edge of her own hopes, the weight of uncertainty was pressing down again. Could she rally the community in the face of this new threat? What if the events to come turned out to be the very defining moment of her struggle? Would this be the disruption that became her inspiration? As questions swirled in her mind like a dizzying whirlwind, an urgent scream pierced through the chaos once more. "Help! Please! Somebody, help her!" Fear surged. What if she didn't get the chance to find out? The air buzzed with a different kind of fear now, thick and suffocating. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum, each thud echoing the desperate calls for help surrounding her. She could barely focus. The reality of what was happening seeped into her instincts, like blood into the ground. The woman on the floor was fighting for her life, and Sarah was rooted to the spot, wondering if action would cost them dearly. "Stay close to me." Mike's voice broke through her turmoil. He linked his arm with hers, his grip both reassuring and electrifying. They pushed forward, edging through the crowd, their resolve hardening with each step. "Everyone, clear a path," he shouted, his voice carrying over the cacophony. A few heads turned, giving way as they instinctively sought any semblance of order amid the chaos. Sarah felt a flicker of gratitude for Mike's determination. She echoed his command, urging people back, a futile request amidst the swirling anxiety. As they reached the perimeter of the gathering, the magic of the festival felt a world away. The vibrant colors, tantalizing smells, and laughter faded into shadows around her, replaced by grim faces and the sound of sirens piercing through the dread. They squirmed through onlookers, making their way to the woman lying still on the pavement. "Anna!" Sarah cried out, spotting her friend kneeling beside the fallen figure. "What can we do?" Her friend looked up, pale but composed. "I'm checking for a pulse," but her voice trembled. "She needs a doctor. Fast." The expression in Anna's eyes was a haunting mix of fear and urgency that dug into Sarah's gut. It was a reminder that they couldn't just stand by anymore. Real people, real pain right in front of them. It felt so far from the bright festival dreams she'd nurtured. "Someone!" cried a frantic voice behind her, and Sarah turned to see a man pushing through the crowd, hands shaking. "My sister, she's a nurse." She can help. Get her over here. Mike shouted without hesitation. The man turned, frantic eyes lighting up with purpose, sprinting away to locate his sister. Sarah glanced down at the woman. Hair tangled, face pale beneath the sheen of sweat. Panic surged. What if they were too late? What if she didn't wake up? This woman, unknown to Sarah, felt like a stranger yet was tied to her heart. A muted gasp rippled through the crowd. An officer pushed forward, assessing the situation. He quickly squatted, checking the woman's vitals, calling out for assistance. "Let us move her," another voice barked. "Clear the area." But chaos erupted anew. A man shouted, "No! Don't touch her. She might have a spine injury." Each voice compounded the tension, creating a net of confusion and agony. Sarah felt her throat tighten. The stakes were rising. Their makeshift command center teetered on the edge of panic. What if they made a mistake? The very thought made bile rise. Just then, the nurse arrived, breathless and frantic. "What happened?" she shouted, forcing her way through the throng. "She collapsed," Anna replied, urgency flooding the air like a rush of wind. "We need to do something." The tension was palpable. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing a primal urge to scream and demand answers. She wanted to jump in, to save someone without knowing how. "Back up!" the officer shouted again, clearing space for the nurse. The crowd shifted, collective breath held as everyone watched, desperate for a sign, a glimmer of hope. But just then, a figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the festival, eyes dark and intent. Sarah's skin prickled. Who was that? "Don't let her die!" someone shouted again. And just as the crowd tightened like a noose, she caught sight of an unsettling shift in the newcomer's expression. A smirk? Or was it the glint of something worse? Sarah took a step back, heart racing, a chilling realization dawning on her. This wasn't just about a woman needing help, something even darker was awakening within the crowd. What if this had all been planned, a trap in the name of chaos? The energy shifted, a collective murmur rippling through the crowd. As fear gripped them tightly, Sarah stood frozen, unease creeping under her skin. Could this be the catalyst that put everything she had built in jeopardy? As the sirens faded and tension spiked, she knew one thing for certain: they were all in danger, and this was just the beginning. What lay ahead? As the seconds ticked painfully by, tension wrapped around Sarah like a thick fog. Each heartbeat seemed louder than the last, a deafening reminder of the reality they were facing. The officer's frantic movements and the nurse's urgent shouts faded into a distant hum. It was the figure in the shadows that held her attention now. She blinked, hoping the strange sight would disappear, that the smirk she thought she saw was a trick of her imagination. But that figure remained, shifting forward slightly, dark eyes locked onto the chaos with a chilling sort of satisfaction. Sarah's stomach twisted at the sight. "Are you ready?" the figure whispered, barely loud enough for Sarah to hear, but the words sliced through her like a knife. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, though she knew the answer deep down. A feeling of dread pooled in her chest. This shadowy presence was more than just a bystander. There was intent behind those eyes, a malevolence that sent tremors through the crowd. "Focus on her," shouted the nurse as she knelt to the side of the woman. "We need the defibrillator. Somebody get it, now." The urgency snapped Sarah out of her daze. She pushed away from Mike's reassuring grip and turned back to the scene unfolding at the pavement. "I'll help," she shouted, the determination rising in her. She elbowed her way through the gawking crowd, pushing past the paralyzed faces of festival-goers who should have been enjoying music and laughter, but the thought of the woman struggling for breath pricked every maternal instinct she'd ever felt. The nurse's hands were trembling as she felt for a pulse, her brow furrowed with concentration. "Come on, we need you," the nurse muttered under her breath. "Hold on." Miraculously, there was a flicker. A faint pulse. But the smile that tried to break across the nurse's face quickly faded as her eyes fell back on the woman's stillness. "We need that defibrillator now." Sarah glanced back at the figure in the shadows. He was still there, watching, an unnerving grin plastered across his face. In that moment, Sarah understood that he wasn't just an intruder at the festival, he was an architect of the unfolding chaos. She hesitated. Should she confront him? Should she expose him? Even as she weighed her options, she felt guilt settle in her heart. "Sarah." Mike's voice cut through her thoughts. "We need you here." "Right." She turned back, panic coursing through her veins. She grabbed the nearest person. "You. Can you help get that defibrillator from the EMS tent?" Her voice held more authority than she felt. "Yeah, okay." The man nodded, rushing off, breaking the hold of dread around them by jumping into action. Just as the crowd began to stir and hope flickered anew, the figure took a step forward. It was as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. Whispered words cut through the ambient noise, striking a terrifying chord. "So predictable, aren't you? Get back!" Sarah shouted, her own fear brightening her voice. But he advanced, an eerie confidence radiating from him. In her heart, fear clashed with an overpowering urge to protect. Mike moved to block the figure's path, but Sarah could hardly see them. The crowd shifted like a turbulent sea, faces sliding in and out of view. "Stop!" A female voice echoed, barely piercing the chaos. The nurse was back, eyes locked on the shadowy figure. "This isn't your place. Leave." But instead of retreating, he laughed, unexpected and chilling. "This is exactly where I want to be," he countered, a glimmer of madness in his eyes. Sarah could only watch in horror, heart racing as uncertainty filled the space between them. This was more than life and death. It was becoming a fight for survival against a force she couldn't yet understand. Would they be able to save the woman before it was too late? And who was this mysterious figure lurking in the shadows, observing with a grin? She felt the weight of the moment settle around her, heavy and foreboding. And in that instant, she connected the dots. The trap was closing in, and she was right in the middle of it. As the world around them spun into chaos, the question lingered: who would emerge victorious in the battle ahead? Every breath Sarah took felt like it was caught in her throat, each second dragging painfully. Mike's anxiety mirrored her own, and they locked eyes amidst the swirling crowd, the dark figure now just a short distance away. The nurse crouched over the woman, frantically trying to revive her, the sounds of the festival around them blurring into a haunting background hum. "Stay with me," the nurse urged, desperately squeezing the woman's hand. Her voice was thick with unyielding hope mixed with fear. Just as the crowd surged forward, trying to get a better view, Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline. They had to make this stop. The figure stepped forward again, his presence sending chills down her spine. He seemed to delight in the chaos, his smirk growing wider with each passing moment. "How fascinating. Are you all really so eager to play hero?" he taunted, his voice slick and syrupy. "Shut up," Mike yelled, stepping in front of Sarah, fists clenched. He faced the figure determinedly, drawing attention away from Sarah, as though he could block the darkness with sheer will. The crowd swelled, tension palpable, and Sarah felt it. Fear and anger mixed within her, boiling over. She yelled back, "What do you want?" The question lingered in the air like a blade, daring him to answer. His response was a low, mocking chuckle. "Just watching." He stepped closer, eyes glinting like blades in the dim light. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath. After all, it's not every day that life and death play out before your very eyes. "You think you can control it? Get away from her." Sarah's voice cut through the tension, full of urgency. Her mind raced. Was he here to stop them? To escalate the situation? Or was he just a spectator in this grotesque stage of life and death, the nurse's hands trembled as she prepared the defibrillator when, suddenly, the figure lunged towards them. Gasps erupted, bodies shifted, and then silence. It was as if the world had paused, caught in the chilling moment of his advance. "No!" Mike shouted, stepping forward, but Sarah could see the fear flicker in his eyes too, his bravery unwavering yet trembling at the edges. "Let her die," the figure sneered, tauntingly. "Or maybe you could save her." Such a thrilling gamble, don't you think? Desperation flooded Sarah's veins. She would not let this figure dictate their outcome. She glanced at the nurse who was still trying to revive the woman, an air of frantic determination radiating from her. "You can't let him win. We have to save her." Just then, the defibrillator arrived, the man from earlier returning panting, and Sarah lunged forward, snatching it from him, her resolve ignited. "We're not letting anyone die here." An electric surge coursed through her as she pressed the button, heart racing in rhythm with the looming threat of the figure, now watching with rapt interest. "Careful. You might just provoke something," he hissed, eyes narrowing darkly at the defibrillator like it posed a personal threat to him. With every shock sent into the woman's heart, Sarah could feel the weight of the confrontation. Each pulse echoed like a ticking clock, a countdown to either salvation or ruin. Yet, amid this turmoil, the figure's laughter rolled forward, drowning out the desperate cries for life. What if saving her meant risking everything? His voice dripped with malice as he drew closer, looming just behind them. "Are you willing to make that choice?" Fear twisted Sarah's stomach in knots, but she pressed on, a single thought fueling her actions. Save the woman. Push back against the darkness. But what if he was right? What if saving one meant losing another? As the crowd waited with bated breath, fully engaged in this looming drama, Sarah had no idea of the storm that was brewing just beneath the surface. With the figure's dark eyes glaring into hers, one question resonated louder than any other: what price would they have to pay to emerge from this alive? The crowd was a living entity, writhing, gasping, hoping. Each member held their breath, waiting, praying. Sarah felt the tension ripple around her like electricity. She continued to press the defibrillator against the woman's chest, desperately bringing the machine back to life, back to purpose. "Come on. Come on," Sarah whispered, her heart racing. She'd never been in this position before. The nurse's hands moved in a blur, but Sarah had become almost hypnotically focused, intent on making her actions count. The figure didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned closer, his mocking voice barely a whisper. "An admirable effort, but futile. What if I told you that she's already gone? You're just dragging this out for your own sake." His words clung to the air, suffocating the hope building within Sarah. "Shut up," she screamed, fear intermingling with her anger. "You don't get to decide that. Not here." The figure's grin widened. "You think fighting against fate will get you somewhere? How quaint." He cast a glance over the crowd, and Sarah followed his gaze. Eyes buzzed with confusion, horror, and a touch of morbid curiosity. They were entranced, caught in a web woven from fear and despair. "Get away!" Mike roared, pounding his fist into his palm, eyes darting around the scene, searching for something, anything. "We're saving her." As the nurse continued her efforts, time seemed to stretch infinitely. Each second ticked away painfully, an agonizing reminder of their uphill battle. Sarah could feel the terror swelling up inside her, threatening to drown out every bit of resolve she possessed. "Look at them," the figure said, gesturing dramatically toward the crowd. "They love the drama. The thrill of watching you claw against the darkness, thinking you can win." He leaned in closer to her, his breath hot and rancid. "But what if this is about more than her? What if you are merely a pawn in a larger game?" The doubt crept in like fog rolling over a valley. What were they really up against? For a heartbeat, she faltered. Was this just a game to him? People don't just die for no reason. She shouted back defiantly, finding a spark of determination in the middle of swirling despair. And we're not done fighting. You can't take that away from us. The figure laughed again, a sound that felt like shards of glass. Ah, then you do have spirit. But every hero has a chance to be a villain. The risk is charming, don't you think? It was then that something shifted. The crowd, once captivated by the darkness, began to realize their own power. Murmurs of dissent rose like smoke. We're not just going to let her die. Someone shouted, voice laced with righteous fury. As this energy ignited around them, Mike turned to Sarah, determination ablaze in his eyes. We'll save her. Together. The words sliced through her doubt, and for the first time that night, she felt a flicker of hope. She turned back to the woman, heart pounding harder than ever. The defibrillator was ready, charged with promise and peril. Just one more time. She shouted. We can do this. The figure faltered, his shadowed facade peeling back, revealing something that struck fear deep into her core. Was he losing control? She pressed the button again. The charge surged through the woman's body, reverberating through the chaos like a shockwave. In that instant, everything changed. The chilling laugh of the figure fell silent, swallowed by the desperation of the moment. But just as the tension reached its peak, the figure stepped back, an unsettling calm settling over his demeanor. Very well, hero. But remember, what comes next will not just test your courage, but your soul. Sarah froze, unable to decipher his intentions. The crowd shuffled uneasily, confusion threaded with newfound resolve. What would confront them next? As the man's eyes glimmered ominously in the flickering festival lights, a chilling question plucked at the edges of Sarah's mind: what if saving one meant losing everything? The surge of electricity pulsed through the woman on the ground, a mix of synthetic life hanging in the air like a charged balloon. For a heartbeat, Sarah felt the world around her fade as the defibrillator hummed its eerie tune. The crowd held its collective breath, as if daring to hope, as if the energy emanating from the machine could wrap them all in warmth, but the figure still looming like the darkest storm cloud watched with a sinister fascination. What a delightful display, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Such naivete. Do you really think mere mechanics can alter fate? You play with power far beyond your understanding. Mike stepped forward, fists clenched. Shut up. She's coming back. She has to. Against the backdrop of desperate anticipation, Sarah's focus wavered as the woman's body lay still. The paramedics, the glimmering festival lights, the crowd all lost their meaning for her. It was just her, the machine, and the chilling presence of that figure, who seemed to thrive on their fear, feeding off their need for hope. Do you feel that? He asked, tone slick and mocking. The silence? Those people are not just spectators. They're witnesses to your failure. Stop it. Sarah screamed, her voice raw with desperation. She couldn't let his words slither into her mind. She pressed the button again, a pulse of energy flashing through the woman's body, but nothing changed. The hope that had flared so brightly now flickered in dark uncertainty. As if sensing her faltering spirit, the figure leaned in closer. What if I told you this is just the beginning? You think you're fighting for her, but you're merely unleashing a chain reaction, one that will haunt you all. A murmur rippled through the crowd, questions bubbling up, uncertainty creeping in. What if he was right? The truth glimmered like a specter at the corner of Sarah's mind. What sacrifices would be demanded? What choices would they be forced to face? In a moment of clarity, a calm resolve ignited within her. Drawing upon the energy that buzzed within the crowd, she shouted, "This isn't just about her. It's about every single one of us. Together we stand against despair." As if caught in her fervor, the crowd roared back, their voices intertwining in a profound moment of unity. We won't give up. We will fight. The energy surged, swirling around them, raw, palpable, and willing to confront the darkest corners of despair, but the figure snarled, rage marring his features. Fools! You're awakening something worse than you can imagine. Just then, a flicker, a heartbeat? Within the woman. Sarah leaned in, her hands steady now, grasping the defibrillator like a lifeline. Stay with us. We need you. A soft gasp escaped the woman's lips. Sarah's heart swelled with hope, but the figure's laughter returned, echoing through the night. It was a cold, cutting sound that sent chills down her spine. Do you not understand? He spat, a manic gleam in his eyes. Every act of defiance comes at a price. For light to exist, darkness must collect its due. Sarah's pulse raced as the crowd began to realize the full weight of those words. Panic shot through them like fire, rippling outward, and her heart dropped. Had they unknowingly entered a game far more sinister? Before she could process it further, the ground beneath them trembled, the air charged with an unseen force. The lights flickered, shadows twisting around them as if alive, and for a moment, she felt the breath of something ancient rise within the dark corners of the night. What have we done? Someone whispered, eyes wide as terror took root in hearts. With a thunderous crack, the air split open above them, revealing swirling clouds obscured by darkness. As shadows spiraled down, panic morphed into chaos. Sarah clutched onto the defibrillator as if it alone could save them, the world spinning out of control. Then it hit her. It wasn't just the woman lying lifeless before her. They were all in danger now. Together. She shouted, steel in her voice. We need to hold on. Trust each other. The crowd rallied back, bolstered by their shared fear. But the figure laughed, and the sound reverberated like a tolling bell in the distance. What comes next will carve its mark on every soul. Buckle up, dear friends, because now, the game truly begins. A fresh wave of dread washed over Sarah as she realized that saving the woman might mean embracing a darkness they weren't prepared for. As thunder rumbled above, she wondered, would they brave the storm, or would they crumble under its weight? What awaited them in those swirling shadows? As the chaos intensified, the swirling darkness enveloped the festival like a hungry beast, growling with unseen power. Gasps erupted, and people stumbled back, fear etched into their faces. Sarah gripped the defibrillator, knuckles widening as questions churned in her mind. Could they still save the woman? Was anyone around them safe? Stay united. Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the thick fog of panic, determined to reignite hope among the thrumming crowd. Together. We can't let fear drive us apart. Mike stepped up beside her, his presence an anchor in the tempest. You heard her. Let us push back. His encouraging words resonated through the throng, reins of courage tightening around them as the crowd began to rally. We will trust each other. In moments, huddled voices became a powerful chorus, filling the air with defiance. Together. Together. They chanted, an anthem pushing back against the encroaching shadows, an echo of shared resolve. The figure in the shadows growled, frustration boiling over. Foolish mortals. Your bravery is a mere echo in a dark void. You cannot fight what you can't see. He raised a gloved hand, and the ground beneath them trembled ominously. As if in response, Sarah felt the defibrillator vibrate in her hands, sending a pulse of energy back through her. This isn't just about survival. It's about hope. She screamed, eyes darting to the woman. Gritting her teeth, she pressed the button again. The device whirred to life. Around her, the energy surged. The crowd tightened their formation, inspired by every beat of the defibrillator, clinging to the unity they had forged in fear. Every face glistened with determination. They could make a difference. A spark ignited in the air, then, without warning, a bright flash burst forth from the defibrillator. The energy surged and arced through the air, igniting a blinding light that rippled across the square. The figure recoiled, his laughter transforming into a strangled gasp as the surge enveloped him. Fool! Do you think mere electricity can defeat me? He snarled, as grotesque shadows twisted around him, lashing out in retaliation. But the blinding force of hope swept through the crowd, as voices strengthened in pitch, bolstering the light enveloping them. The woman on the ground stirred. A faint pulse flickered, her chest lifting ever so slightly. "Come on. Fight!" Anna shouted, her voice strong, pulling the crowd together. "We can do this." The flickering light strengthened, spiraling outward like a beacon of defiance. It shot toward the fallen woman, merging with her, and suddenly the air shimmered, raw power igniting hope across the crowd. "Do not give in." Mike bellowed, his hands stable on Sarah's shoulders, unwavering. "We are stronger than fear." As they rallied around her, Sarah felt a warmth spread inside, a growing fire fueled by their collective will. She pressed the button of the defibrillator again, electricity coursing through her, battling against the tendrils of darkness that threatened to snuff out their hope. With one last surge, the blinding light surged toward the woman, illuminating her in a glow that felt like pure life. The shadowy figure howled, stumbling back, the very essence of darkness recoiling in horror. "What is this?" he screamed, gripping the shadows around him, wrenching against the light casting forth from the crowd, and then, a miracle. The woman gasped, eyes fluttering open as if waking from a nightmare. The light engulfed her spirit, pulling her up from the edges of despair, and in that sacred breath, Sarah felt the shift. The woman was back. Cheers erupted, a wave of sheer joy flowing through the crowd like electricity. Hearts beat as one, defying the pain and fear that had once snared them. Sarah's tears cascaded down her cheeks, a flood of relief washing over her. But the sinister figure only grew angrier, his face twisted, darkness curling around him like smoke. "You will regret this," he shouted. "What rises must also fall. You think you can defy fate? Together, we have already defied fate." Sarah shouted back, her voice steadier than she ever imagined. "No darkness can claim us when we stand united." Hope anchored her, binding everyone together, and the crowd echoed her sentiment, the bond of their unity blaring against the night. No more fear. For a moment, it seemed as if the shadows shuddered, as though recoiling from their strength. The air shimmered between them, a flickering reminder that their souls burned brighter than any darkness. With the woman rising fully to her feet, the figure's laughter morphed into a howl of rage, unleashing shadows that rippled wildly, but each tendril that stretched out was met with resolute defiance from the crowd. "Your time is up," Mike roared, hands clasped with Sarah's, eyes full of strength. "You don't control who we become." As the light infused the air, heightening their resolve, the shadows began to dissolve under the unwavering brightness of their unity. Bulges of darkness began consuming the figure, pulling him down, as he clawed desperately at the edges of power. "If your voice is truth, then learn to surrender," Sarah shouted, with her heart pounding. He grinned one last, threatening grin, eyes glimmering with a trace of malevolence. "You think all of this will protect you? I will return." And then he vanished, consumed by the very shadows he summoned, lost in the brightness of their faith. Silence fell over the fairground, the crowd still pulsing with adrenaline and the throbbing hum of hope. The air was sweet with victory, a breeze of possibility teasing their senses. And in that moment, watching the woman stand among them, Sarah finally understood the power of community, of resilience, of love. They were not just a gathering cheering for a dream, they were a family forged through struggle and triumph, enduring against odds that once seemed insurmountable. As the festival returned to life, colors swirling and laughter mingling like music, Sarah felt no more despair in her heart. "Let us get started on that festival," she called, her spirit soaring. "Let us bring our community together for something beautiful." Cheers echoed as they rallied around their newfound purpose, igniting a celebration meant to uplift, not just Sarah, but all those whose voices were silenced by shadows. Dreams thrived amidst the laughter, and possibilities painted the sky. Together, they would build dreams born from darkness, creating a brighter future for themselves and each other. And Sarah? She was no longer invisible. She was a beacon of resilience an entire community had ignited, ready to embrace every challenge that awaited. The woman once a stranger smiled widely, gratitude shining through the bond they now shared. In her heart, Sarah knew this journey was just the beginning. Now, if you enjoyed this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on future exclusive stories that will pull at your heartstrings. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We all know it makes a difference. And hey, I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. This is your moment to share. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let us spread the light of hope together.